where you see brothers and brothers fighting for money and property, sisters, brothers, fathers, children. Look at our Prophet ﷺ. 1400 years ago he said, I don't fear that you guys will do shirk, assign partners to Allah. But my fear is you will envy your brother and your sister for worldly things. When they have these worldly accomplishments, you will envy it.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to Alhikmat TV for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is the creator of different faces. Allah is the creator. Allah, Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah. All praises are due to Allahu, Allah. All praises are due to Allahu, Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you would like to dedicate copies of one of these publications as Sadaqah Jariyah, continuous blessings for your parents or dear ones who have passed away, or fi sabilillah, in the path of Allah, please give us a call so we can place your names on these dedicated publications. You can call us at 954-986-0158, or you can also visit us at www.alhikmat.com.
Allah is the creator of different faces. Allah is the creator of all races. Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah.
Since 9/11, there has been a great fear of Islam.
We need Muslims, I always say, to speak up in this country.
Much of our Islamic community is perceived to be insular.
Most Americans have never met a Muslim or are not aware of having met a Muslim.
Most people don't have enough education in terms of what the entirety of Islam represents.
It's very easy to hate someone or to put stereotypes on people that you've never interacted with.
But do you think if Muslims were more integrated in society, in America, in the United States of America, then there would have been less anti-Muslim scenario?
I think it's even more important that our clergy speak up. They are, after all, the moral force in our community.
You see, the Islam that is celebrated is one which opens its doors.
Having this type of dialogue in terms of a community outreach, or
Something that Muslims have to do is go out just like you do and inviting non-Muslims to the iftar. And you do a lot of speaking to mixed groups.
We have to change the language from us versus them to a language of we.
I believe that if we can stand together against the forces of hatred and be unified in this country, then we can do wonderful things.
Bringing us together to enhance the beauty of humankind.
I think religion can be such a powerful force for unity.
Of course.
We've made it into this powerful force for disunity.
Keep trying to understand each other and care for each other and keep building a world community, because I believe that's what God wants for us all.
And I'm in their mosques and they're in my temple, and it's been a phenomenal experience. I've had a very warm and welcoming experience from all the brothers and sisters in the community.
That every human being is either your brother in faith or brother in humanity.
In Arabic, the word is lita'arafu, so that you will learn to understand one another.
And this is the truth of what it should be. You see, this is why I am so pleased to come here today, to support the work of Alhikmat.
The kind of intolerance and the violence that we see across the globe is rooted in ignorance, which we can overcome by teaching.
Yes.
Also
yes.
rooted in fear, which we can overcome by experiencing, where we can actually live in each other's presence. You know, it's rooted in this myopic kind of my way only, rather than this understanding that maybe all of us have more in common, and at the core of who we are is this truly global family that we belong to.
I'd like to say what a joy and pleasure it is to have Sheikh Shafayat as my friend, as my teacher, as my co-worker in the vineyard of Allah, God, where we work together to make this world a better place, to do God's work, to do the work which we are commanded to do as human beings.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Global Issues on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor to have with us in Alhikmat studio Dr. Sheeba Rahman. Welcome to the show,
Thank you,
Dr.
Sheikh.
Sheeba.
Thank you.
It's really a blessing, I consider,
SubhanAllah, thank you.
to have you with us and to discuss some of our women issues.
Alhamdulillah, thank
And you know, women issues are really a global issue.
That is true.
It's a global issue.
Yes.
Women more or less sort of run the world nowadays.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
But fortunately, unfortunately, they also do have some technicalities.
That's true.
Like men and everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's really a pleasure to have you with us, and we know that you got a very interesting background. You know, you have formerly worked at the Mayo Clinic.
Yes.
Is
thank
that
you.
the way you pronounce
yes,
it?
Yes, absolutely.
Mayo Clinic. What does Mayo
Clinic.
stand for?
Mayo, I think, comes from the Mayo brothers. They were two doctors who actually started. Dr. Mayo was an actual physician who started the Mayo Clinic.
Oh,
and so it's located in Minnesota, and it's one of the leading healthcare systems in the country, actually. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So Dr. Sheeba is a medical doctor, physician, and psychiatrist. So we're going to discuss a couple things with her pertaining to depression, stress, anxiety, her experience in that area, and how sisters and women worldwide needs whatever assistance they can get from that field. We have viewers worldwide. It's national, local, international. We call it LIN. Local, international, and national.
Okay,
so I'm sure people worldwide will benefit from your advice, your discussion, your experience with cases wherever.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Sheeba is originally from New Jersey.
New York.
New York.
Yeah.
Why am I so? Well, I know they're very close by.
Close by, exactly.
Anyway, she has a field of experiences in her own world, and I'm sure you viewers out there will benefit a great deal. So I would like to ask Dr. Sheeba today on this show, how does it feel as a woman, a Muslim woman, in your profession?
Yeah. Well, thank you first of all for having me here, and thank you for the introduction. Being a Muslim, female, professional physician, alhamdulillah, I'm extremely grateful for that. I'm extremely grateful to have the title, to have worked for the title. It's always been my goal to be a doctor, and alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it possible for me. And I think being a female is an advantage in my field because it requires a lot of compassion, a lot of mercy, a lot of listening, a lot of talking also, which I think women are well equipped. Being Muslim is also...
Women are expert in talking,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you know that. I like to talk and I like to
Yes.
listen also. Men don't like to listen as much. Women like to listen also,
Yes.
So it's actually been a big advantage, I think, being female. Of course, I've had my obstacles, how to get to where I got to, alhamdulillah. But I think it's something that I want to encourage more women to pursue their career, especially in medicine, and for young females especially to want to be a highly educated Muslim female. I think it's one of the biggest strengths I have as a Muslimah is my education.
Do you think that women have more depression and anxiety issues than men? I'll be interrupting you here and there as you talk because it's really a pleasure. And I know a woman out there would love to hear this.
Yes. So with women, it is more common, absolutely, both depression and anxiety. Interestingly enough, more females will talk about it and express it. Now,
I like that answer. So it doesn't necessarily mean that more women suffer more stress and anxiety issues, but they talk about it more than men.
They talk about it, yes. And there's certain types of anxiety disorders that are more common in men than women, or there's certain types of depressive disorders that are more common in women than men. So it's very common in both men and women. Now, when it comes to depression itself, it can happen in both, but the worst outcome for depression is suicide, as a psychiatrist from my perspective. And more women attempt suicide, and more men commit suicide. So men will successfully end their life if they want to. Women will keep trying and keep trying and keep trying.
You mean they will talk more about wanting to do it than really do it?
Right. So
the men will not talk about it.
Right.
They may just get it done. But
Exactly.
talking about that, I don't want to interrupt you, but I have to. I'm thinking how the audience there are thinking, and how they may want to, ask you questions. So, speaking about that, women expressing their feelings more than men. It brings me to a point that maybe a lot of men, instead of talking about it, they probably go and play sports.
Yeah,
and they get it out, not knowing that that's what they're doing. They don't like to talk about it.
Right.
So they occupy themselves in sports.
Right.
Some may go and occupy themselves and become alcoholics.
Exactly.
Some may become drug addicted.
Right.
Some may go and just do other things,
Absolutely.
not realizing they're just trying to fill that vacuum
Yes.
where there's a lot of stress, whereas women will talk. So that gives the impression that there are more women suffering stress and anxiety when they are the same thing with men.
Exactly. And so I would say that I see equally men and women both. It's not that I have more female patients versus men patients, And like you said, there's co-occurring substance abuse disorders. There's co-occurring disorders that people will resort to. Even females can resort to drugs and alcohol. But I think whether you're...
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, but for men or women, it's important to be in tune with your mood and your symptoms and how long it's happening for. So if you're feeling down on most days than other, you're not able to get to work, you're not able to do your daily activities, in our community you're not able to even, so there's some Muslims who say we can't offer salah, we just can't do it, and so they start to feel that it's a spiritual problem. But it's really that they're fatigued, their energy is low, they have a lack of motivation, and so those are all depressive symptoms. And so they have to kind of come in, and I explore that with them and talk about it and see how to treat it and target it.
But that's not the situation with non-Muslim women.
No, I mean, it's even for non-Muslim women, those are the same symptoms.
The same symptoms based on their religion and their family background and upbringing, etc.
Yeah.
Because we got viewers worldwide.
Yeah,
Muslims,
absolutely.
non-Muslims,
Absolutely.
different faiths, etc.
Yeah. And sometimes with depression, there is a complete lack of hope, lack of motivation, lack of energy, and you can't figure it out. You have a faith or you have a belief system, but you can't implement it in your thought process because you're depressed, So you can't find it in you to see a tomorrow or a better tomorrow.
Right.
And it's because you're having symptoms,
Interesting.
Yeah. And any faith is protective.
So what really motivated you to get into this profession?
Well, like I said, I always wanted to be a doctor, and when I was in my training and in medical school, I was studying neurology in particular, which is the study of the brain, and I was studying patients who were having seizures. seizures, epileptic seizures.
Wow.
And so along with the patients who were having seizures, there were some patients that were physically having a seizure, but their EEG, which is the test for a seizure, was normal. So the electrical activity in the brain was normal, but the physical manifestation was there. And so that interested me in psychiatry, because it was a seizure of the mind versus an actual seizure, you know. So the patient actually feels like that they're having a seizure, and when you watch them on video camera, they look like they're having a seizure, but the electrical activity of the brain is completely normal. So then I went into psychiatry thinking this is kind of interested and I'm intrigued. So I got into a psychiatry residency program, and I thought, let me try it and see how I feel about it.
And this was in New York?
This was, then I did my training in Delaware.
Oh.
So I had to go out of state. I had to go out of state to do my residency. And so once I started to see patients on a regular basis with mental illness, and I saw the effects that medications have on their lives, I became a believer, and I realized that this is important. You know, this is an actual chemical imbalance. People need to be treated, and it can change your life, the course of your life.
Did you have any kind of obstacles in studying and following up this career that you wanted to be in so much?
I had lots of obstacles.
Like what kind of obstacles? As a girl, a woman, a Muslim?
Yeah, so I'm number 3 of 4 girls. We're 4 sisters all together at home. So the idea culturally was you know, get married to a doctor. You don't have to become a doctor.
Interesting, I like that. Get married to a doctor.
Yeah.
That's a short way out.
That's a short way out, but my belief system and in my family, we were always like, we want to do what we want to do. And I come from a very pro-education family, and everybody wants to pursue a career. So my parents encouraged me, whereas culturally it wasn't really accepted at the time when I was going away to school and having to try, you know, and you know, grandparents and relatives like, well, why are you sending your daughter away, you know, to study? What for? You know, and so I just kind of kept going, and it was challenging.
Oh, so you had that situation?
I did have that situation. Yeah, even though I was born and raised here
in America.
Yeah, in America, my parents were like, why are you doing this? Why are you sending her away? And she's a female. Why would you do that? You know. And then when I did go away to school, it was hard. It was difficult. You know. You have to, you know, the male to female ratio. There's more boys than girls when you go to medical school. You know, at least when I did. And so
then the peer pressure around.
The peer pressure.
Your lifestyle is so different to this new world that you are experiencing here.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you have to work 24/7 and be on call, and you know, live outside of a bag sometimes, and just kind of be at the hospital when you're needed. And so it's a tough lifestyle, and a lot of people used to say it's not for women, don't do it, you know. And so I did have obstacles, but I had to keep keeping my goal in mind and keep focused and keep moving forward. And I think the more I started to see patients and enjoy what I was doing, the easier it became. But it was definitely difficult.
It was.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. But alhamdulillah, I made it through.
So as a Muslim, you think a Muslim woman face a little more difficulties in getting into this profession?
Well, it's, I'm not sure if, for me, there were times where, I mean, if there's gaps in your education, you're questioned, like, why is there a gap in your education? And they explore your Muslim, you know, the stereotypes attached to being Muslim. Did you ever go outside of the country during this gap, etc.? So there was a little bit of prejudice and bias along the way, even in my profession, you know. But I had to use all of that to become my strengths in how I was doing what I was doing. You know, because my patients themselves deal with a lot of stigma, being mentally sick. So I had to put everybody else's stigmas aside and kind of stick to what I was doing and focus. But it was hard, you know, just being Muslim and female and being in an environment where there was not that many of us, you know. And familiarity is good sometimes, you know, when other people can relate to you, you know. And so it was definitely a challenge. But alhamdulillah, you know, there was a lot of good people, Muslim and non-Muslim people, who helped me along the way and encouraged me and supported me. And, you know, I made it.
So you encourage, and you would encourage Muslim women, or women in general, to get involved in a profession and career like this, would you?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very rewarding.
You see the need for it?
There's a definite need for it. I think a lot of people are suffering from mental illness, not just in America, but worldwide.
You know, there's a famous saying, there are more mental
illness people outside than inside the mental hospital.
You might be right.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting because very few people actually end up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Very few people will actually walk in their door and ask
because
for
most
help.
of them don't accept that they're mentally
They don't
ill.
accept it, yeah. And so that's one of the goals, is to make people understand that it's okay to accept it. Like,
Because you can get a pain and know you have a pain, so you
Yes.
need to go to the hospital.
right.
But a mental illness, you don't really know that.
You don't know
And
that.
many people who are mentally ill, they think they're not mentally ill. They think everybody else are mentally
Yes.
ill, and they are the most sane, the
Yes.
most righteous thinking.
Absolutely.
Where technically they are mentally ill.
You're right.
So they don't go for treatment.
Absolutely.
They won't ask for advice. They won't go to a doctor.
Yes.
And that's a sad issue.
It is a sad issue. And you know, there's a lot of personality disorders as such, where people in their own mind think that they're right and their way is the best way. And meanwhile, around them, their relationships are being disrupted, their family life is being disrupted, their work life is being disrupted, but they can't see beyond.
They don't have a clue. That's
They
why.
don't have a clue.
That's why you got more mentally ill people outside than in the mental hospital.
I would agree with you.
Honestly, because they just cannot think that they are mentally ill. You know, it's like education.
Yes, yes.
We go through that in the educational field, in the Islamic religious
Right.
jurisprudence field. And I'm sure to a point you will agree with me here. There are a lot of people you're speaking to in an audience, and they all think they know Islam.
Yes,
So they don't seek to learn.
yes.
They don't seek to know more about the Quran and the Sunnah, the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Yes.
Because they think they know more,
Right.
and they don't make the effort to learn.
Right.
So you do have more ignorant people out there.
Absolutely.
But they don't know they're ignorant.
Yeah.
Because they think
Yes.
that they are educated and they know it all.
Yes.
And that's a sad thing.
It's a sad thing and it's a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Is-
You know,
yeah.
there is a very famous saying in Arabic, La adri nisful ilm. It means to say I don't know is already half of knowledge.
Subhanallah, yes.
You got it?
Yes, I get
To
it.
say I don't know is half
Yes.
of knowledge, which means
Yeah.
that you would want to seek.
Right.
Whereas a lot of people think they know,
Yes.
which is a sign that they don't know.
Right, right.
So
Absolutely.
you have more ignorant people out there
Yes.
than educated. So
I
back to
agree.
the mental illness.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I go through this, Dr. Sheeba, all the
Yes.
time with people. They
Yeah.
talk ballistic, and I know
Yes.
this person has a mental problem.
Right.
But they think they're so sane.
Yes.
So I
yes.
know you guys got a hard job.
Yeah, I do. And you really have to kind of put your, your own ego aside, and you have to realize that you're treating an illness and you're dealing with someone who actually has an illness, and that you have to have an understanding that perhaps it's not intentional what they're thinking or doing.
Definitely
Yeah,
not.
whether it's a delusion of any kind or psychosis or whatever it is, they get fixated, and it's very hard to change that, So as a psychiatrist, I have to, keep myself, knowing that this is what I'm treating and this is the illness that they're walking in with. But that's the hard
Wow.
part. Like you said, some people will not accept it.
And they don't know.
And they don't know, but their surroundings are deteriorating,
Yes.
you know.
And they think if they come to you, you will make them think that they're mad.
Yes, so a lot of
or
people.
they're mentally ill.
Exactly. So
That-
there's a stigma
That
attached
is a sad
to it.
thing. Now, I have a very interesting, provocative question to ask you.
Sure.
So if you have more men who go through depression or stress, or let's go to married couples,
Okay.
more men or more women, I don't know, what do we have more husbands go through depression and stress, or do we have more wives? I know, as we were saying, generally you cannot really wear it,
Yeah.
but
So I think when it comes to couples,
Yeah.
and if the wife is depressed, then the husband will have the residual effects of what's happening to the wife. And if the husband is depressed, the woman will experience, conversely, the residual
so
aspect.
it's an action-reaction sort of situation.
Right, because you're dealing with an actual illness. So, for example, if there's a diabetic in the home, you have to modify the diet and your cooking. And so it changes the lifestyle of the person who's cooking also, not just the diabetic who has to eat the low sugar food. So whichever spouse is struggling with whatever mental health problem it is, it affects the other person.
It affects the other person.
And at that point, that's where the education becomes very important. You have to be insightful and understand, well, you know, my husband or wife hasn't been able to, you know, do their daily tasks, or they're having this issue sustaining a healthy relationship with their family members or with their co-workers. What could be happening, and to sort of explore it, or even with each other.
So this brings me to another point.
Yeah.
So if a woman or if wives face more anxiety and depression,
Yeah.
then that could just not mean that it's a woman problem. It can mean the men are the ones who are causing that.
The men could be causing the
You
anxiety.
understand what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, this is interesting. 'Cause
Yeah.
people may say, oh, women, wives suffer more depression, anxiety.
Right.
But then is it because the husbands are causing that?
Well, so women have, not just women, but for anybody, there's a psychological and social component. So there's a biological, psychological, and social component. So when a woman is getting married and coming into a new life, she's changing her lifestyle.
That's a whole mental change.
That's a whole mental change. It's a new environment, new family, new people, you know, and then the expectations are different. So for
Interesting point.
Yeah, and men are, you know, programmed to go to work and leave the house and come back, you know. So for women now that do that, it's something new for a lot of people. That now the women go and work and come back from work and have their own, you know, stressors that are work related. They're not just homebound anymore. So it's such a huge cultural shift that's happened now. And so a lot of couples and their families have not adapted to this yet. So they don't know how to, you know, for example.
So men can find a lot of ways outside to release that stress technically,
Right.
friends, talking, job, work, etc.
Sure, or they feel that their work stress is warranted and it's normal. But a woman's work stress should, you know, should not exist in the house. You know what I'm saying? So a man could walk in stressed out from work, but so can a woman. You know, a woman can walk in stressed out.
And then the woman can get more stressed because now she starts having babies.
Right.
She has more domestic responsibilities.
There's a lot of domestic.
More duties.
Yes.
Not that she has to,
Yeah.
but then all these things come around.
Yeah, it's a lot more physiological and emotional pressure on the woman, because ultimately there's a lot of responsibilities that women can't escape, you know. And even when the education part is happening, as glorious as it sounds, you have to keep all of those things in mind, you know.
That's interesting.
You know, because you have to keep realizing that ultimately the responsibility to bear children, have children, is on the woman, no matter what. Nobody can change that, you know. So yeah, physiologically and chemically it's different for women. Absolutely.
So do you think, you know, nowadays, when a couple is about to get married, they will normally go and get some counseling. Most religions do that.
Yeah.
Actually, the least people that do that, I think, are Muslims.
Yeah.
They don't really do it.
Yeah.
They should.
They should.
They should.
They should.
Most of
absolutely.
these people, they go to the Sheikh or the Imam and says, we want you to come and perform the marriage ceremony for our, you know, children. Most of the times they do not come for counseling before and ask for advice. Well, this couple is going to go into this new lifestyle. They need some counseling. Most of the American courts advise it strongly that you should have some counseling before marriage. And they get into that scenario of what they should do, what they should expect. Are they really prepared for this mindset and the whole 9 yards? Why I'm mentioning this out of the whole context is because do you think, now that you have mentioned this new change in the couple after they get married, or women especially, do you think that they should have some they should see a psychiatrist before they get married?
Definitely. I think couples before embarking on that journey should have premarital counseling. Absolutely. And
I mean, that's a whole new area.
That's a whole new area.
Because a lot of people don't even dream of that.
Yeah, but you know, like you said, the non-Muslim community is so open and receptive to it, which helps the situation because they're preparing themselves for a different life.
Premarital psychiatric
Evaluation.
Evaluation.
Yeah, because you don't want to get married and then realize that there was a
I was not worried for this.
Right, exactly. So you want to kind of prepare yourself for something new and different. And so it's very important to put the cards on the table, you know, and see what kind of stressors this person is coming with and that person is coming with. And of course, you never know until you're actually married and living with one another, but it's okay to prepare for it, you know, what your expectations are with work, what your expectations are with family, you know, what your temperament is like on a daily basis. These things affect the quality of life.
Very interesting. You know, as a Muslim woman, as a physician, as a psychiatrist, I think that you should start promoting that.
Yeah.
That Muslim woman. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one good thing come out
Yes.
here of the show.
Absolutely.
Muslim women, especially,
Uh-huh.
and the men,
Yeah.
have no problem. Both parties
Yeah.
should go
Yeah.
and see a psychiatrist
Mhm.
for pre-marital counseling.
Absolutely.
You know, already people, you live in a home, you got a brother, a sister, a family, you got that scenario. Now they may even have to get adjusted to a sister-in-law,
Yes,
a
yes,
brother-in-law,
yes.
a mother-in-law,
Exactly.
an aunt-in-law.
Exactly.
So men, they can just say, you know what, we don't care, we not here,
Yeah.
we don't hear, we don't care.
Right.
But women are
Yeah.
very sensitive more than men.
Right.
More than men, men
Right.
are, and
Right.
they are, but there are some who just don't care.
Right.
And because women are very sensitive, just a remark, just a joke by an
Yes.
in-law,
Oh, yeah.
or by someone new, by a visitor, a neighbor in a new environment,
Yes.
can just mess the mind up of a
Absolutely.
young girl who just got
Absolutely.
married and
Yes.
came into a new town, a new city, a new home, a new
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
So, you know, Dr. Sheeba, I really think that you and people like you and people you work with should really, from a medical point of view,
Definitely.
start promoting that these young couples, before
Definitely.
they get married,
Yes.
they really need to see a psychiatrist
Yes.
and get premarital
Absolutely.
counsel. What do you think?
I think I 100% agree. I couldn't agree with you more. And like you said, women, you know, it's hard. It's a hard role to take on, and men can sort of put it aside and, you know, put it away. But women can internalize it, you know, and not to say that women are not strong. They're very strong.
They are,
but
they are.
the problem is they're expected to be able to deal with all of that.
But just because
you know?
women are very sensitive and very emotional,
Right. It's a
yeah.
good idea to know, to sit down with, like you said, with a psychiatrist and sort of iron it out and how to cope with those, because those are things that can affect your mind, like you said, and your relationship and your daily life. You know, a comment here and there, you know, when you're trying so hard to adapt to a new life. And in-laws also, I think it should kind of be a big picture. In-laws need to understand, you know, that now the shift has changed culturally, you know. The expectations of a daughter-in-law or a sister-in-law has changed now with time, you know.
Definitely.
Women have their own desires, they're not their own goals, they're not depending on their husband's achievements, you know, and saying that just this is what my husband does and I'm so proud of that. They have their own achievements, you know, and so that's been a big shift that I think families need to learn
they need
about.
to. I mean,
yeah.
this daughter-in-law coming into
Yeah,
a home.
yeah.
Sometimes even the mother-in-law
absolutely.
needs to do, even
Yeah.
though she's not the one getting married, but there
Right.
might be times
Yes.
that the whole family needs some,
Yes.
some counseling.
Absolutely.
Because here is where the mother-in-law,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and I mean the mother of the groom,
Yes,
yeah, because
yes.
you have two mothers-in-law.
Right.
The mother of the groom has
Yeah.
to start realizing
Yes.
that, well, my son,
Yes.
not that he's going to cut down on his love for you, the mother,
Right.
but you're going to see him sharing more love with somebody else.
Right.
Without you losing that love.
Exactly.
You got to start to let go to a point and agree
Yes,
that he
right.
has duties and responsibilities.
Right.
For some reason, girls have a better, way of adjusting their love and being able to still be that loving to their mother and their fathers, or their
Right.
mothers and fathers, their
Right.
parents,
Right.
and still know to adjust their love with their husband.
Yeah.
But I don't think men do that very, very discreet. So what
Right.
happens it looks very glaring. Oh, you love your wife more than your mother now. You know that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And that in itself can start breaking down, and it's an action-reaction situation.
Yeah, I think, Sheikh, with that issue, the mother-in-law syndrome sort of thing, and I see a lot of mother-in-laws, you know, and a lot of them are not Muslim because Muslim women don't necessarily confront this situation. But I think what I explain to them is that you have to let your son grow up and become a man. It has nothing to do with how much he loves you or how little he loves you. It's about accepting his role as a man, and that he's evolving into expanding himself into becoming a husband and then a father and then a family. And they have to embrace that, you know.
And be willing to accept his growth.
Exactly. Allow and nurture his growth even at that stage.
Yes.
Because they did it at an earlier
But I like
stage.
that point.
Yeah.
And you know what? We'll have to cut at that point.
Okay.
Because we've got to go on a short commercial break. And I
Okay,
really love that interesting
thank
issue of husband and family. And because, you know, these are some of the areas that really cause this anxiety and stress and depression.
Yeah.
So we've got to go on a commercial break. We have been speaking for more than 20 minutes plus.
Okay, wow.
When we come back, we will continue a little bit more on some of your experiences, some of the voluntary organizations you have worked with, and the things you have done here in America. Because I'm sure our viewers worldwide will definitely benefit from your discussion and your experiences. And then they may be able to contact you, and we will let them know how they can contact you and get some advice from you as a Muslim psychiatrist.
Yeah,
all right?
absolutely.
So again, viewers, thank you very much for being with us on this show, Global Issues, with Dr. Sheeba Rahman, who is a medical doctor, a physician, a psychiatrist, and it's a pleasure to have her with us on this show. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation, inshallah.
Alhikmat Services, serving the Muslim community and non-Muslim community. Dawah and interfaith activities, distribution of Quran and Islamic publications, sponsoring students to study Islam, Alhikmat Da'i, Dawah and Interfaith Institute. Also, Friday sermons by Sheikh Shafayat are live on alhikmattv.com from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Download our free Alhikmat TV app on your mobile devices. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to donate to Alhikmat Dawah Services online with a credit card or PayPal at alhikmat.com. For more details, contact Alhikmat office at 1-800-804-0267 or our local number 954-986-0158 and visit us at www.alhikmat.com. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Global Issues on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. Again, it is a pleasure, and alhamdulillah, all praises and thanks are due to Allah and God Almighty for blessing us to have with us in Alhikmat studio Dr. Sheeba Rahman, who is a medical doctor and a psychiatrist. It has been a pleasure talking to her before we went on the break. So wonderful, Dr. Sheeba. We got into some very interesting issues.
Absolutely.
And I think some fantastic ideas came out of that.
Yeah, definitely.
And we can surely get a lot of things going. But before we continue, we got a 10-15 minutes again for the show. What are some of the experiences you have had being vice president of the camp in New York, that voluntary organization that you worked with? I know you volunteered different Islamic centers and has been part of what, Domestic Harmony Foundation and different women's program, etc. Would you like to share some of your experience, your involvement?
Absolutely. So I've done a lot
dislikes, whatever.
So these organizations have all been voluntary. It's been sort of the extracurricular stuff that I like to do outside of work. One of which was Camp New York, which is the Council of American Muslim Professionals. So that wasn't really mental health related. It was all about Muslims that are professionals. And it was very secular. It was kind of like an interfaith for professionals, you know. And so that was kind of more of a social activity. The other things, including Domestic Harmony Foundation, Islamic Center of Long Island, as well as Islamic Center of South Florida, I do a lot of mental health awareness for the youth as well as for the ladies. So for example, Domestic Harmony Foundation was was more focused on domestic violence issues for women who were going through some sort of physical, emotional abuse in their marriages, how to counsel them, how to help them recognize the signs and symptoms of that, and what they can do and what sort of intervention is necessary. More recently, with what happened here in Florida with the shooting, sort of debriefing the children and their mothers especially, how they felt about now sending their children to school and the anxiety related to it, and so I've spent time in, with these groups to just kind of help the women and children to kind of recognize, what they could be dealing with and take care of their mental hygiene and how to cope with it, and also to provide for them leadership and support, that they may need someone to talk to and they may not have someone to talk to.
Yes, and I think that's a big problem. A lot of people don't have that someone to talk to. Wow, that's interesting. In the beginning of the show, you were talking about some people, rather than becoming a doctor, they believe the shortcut is to get married to a doctor. And then I was supposed to ask you another question, so our viewers and audience worldwide will have a total perspective of you. So you are married to a doctor.
Yes, I am.
Because we cannot leave that out. So, you got the better of the two worlds.
Yeah,
you
I
not
have the
only
best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
You did not just do the shortcut of marrying and getting married to a doctor, Dr. Naveed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you also became a doctor.
Yeah. So for me, marrying Naveed it's an advantage that he's a doctor because he understands my lifestyle and he understands my profession very well.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it helps me that he knows and he's been through it and he understands my work very well and supports it and encourages it. And conversely, I can do that for him. He's seeing sick patients all day and treating them, and I'm seeing patients that are sick and treating them. So we both have the same goals, the same.
And what area is he specialized in?
He's sports medicine, and he's.
So he's more the physical aspect of the human body.
Yes, exactly.
And you're on the mind.
Yes, exactly.
What a combination.
I know.
He deals with sports medicine.
Exactly. So he's, treats people with injections and heals their physical injuries. And,
yes.
Whereas I treat the mind and,
But you guys are a fantastic combination.
Thank you, thank you.
You can treat each other.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah,
I like that. But I like that point you mentioned. That brings us again into this marriage scenario.
Yeah.
Where that mental understanding is important. Like him being a doctor, he understands your profession.
He does.
And sometimes, you're in counseling and you're and psychiatric issues.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be an issue in marriage.
Absolutely.
When people do not have that compatibility in profession.
Yeah.
Then they don't understand each other's career and profession.
Exactly.
And money alone is the common factor.
Right.
But later on, after you get married, money does not become an issue.
Not at all. Not at all. I think it's the intellectual compatibility that matters. Just the way you think, the way you treat people, the way you, practice your daily routine. We understand each other very well.
Unmarried people definitely need some kind of advice. I'm sure, because if they don't know what kind of partner or spouse, for want of the better word, they should choose, that can be very problematic.
Right, right.
What do you think?
I agree.
Especially with what you said.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that a doctor has to marry a doctor or a lawyer marry a lawyer.
Sure.
But I think these unmarried people need to know what they want in life.
Yes, yes. They need to be introspective and look within themselves and see what sort of life they want to have with a companion. Are they ready to have companionship? Some people get so used to being single for so long and functioning as a single person that it's very hard for them to make that transition. Are they mentally prepared to compromise? Are they mentally prepared to make sacrifices? what type of person will they be most proactive with? And they have to soul search, you know, and rather than just succumb to the cultural pressure or to the financial pressure or to any sort of physical pressure, they have to really do some soul searching and think for themselves, how is the marriage going to make me a better person in this, you know, in this life? How am I going to function optimally? And they have to look into themselves first and then attract someone similar.
So that brings me to another question. We spoke earlier on about premarital counseling.
Yeah.
Now we're talking of another issue.
Right.
Do you think unmarried people need counseling in how to choose a spouse?
It's worth it, Sheikh. It's
Because
very much worth
why
it.
I'm asking you that,
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people who probably just get married only
Yeah.
for society.
Absolutely. And marriage is such an important aspect of your life. And when you do it, you want to do it once and you want to do it right and you want to do it best and you want to choose the best partner for yourself. And nobody's perfect.
Yeah, because
So-
they just get married to let the society know.
Yes.
Then we got married. We're part
Exactly.
of the bandwagon. We joined the club.
Right.
But they may not marry to the person that they really want to get married
Right.
to.
And
There may not be compatibility, and then it's creating more
yeah.
anxiety, stress, and depression that they
Definitely.
were already going through as an
Definitely.
unmarried person.
Definitely. And that's something we see very, very commonly, you know, and there's a lack of understanding of yourself if you succumb to that pressure and just go ahead and marry someone just because. It's not healthy for an individual to do that. And so yes, I definitely highly recommend individual counseling therapy even before you start the couples therapy, because you have to know yourself before you get to know someone else.
Yes.
And you have to be prepared that you'll be sharing a life, and that's important. A lot of times people they'll think, okay, well, we'll coexist. It doesn't work like that. You know, this person will have their life and I'll have mine and we'll be married and people will be happy and they'll be satisfied.
Like two biological bodies coming together.
Exactly. And you know, they have a checklist and check, and it'll work. But you really have to, your lives are literally fusing together. And so you have to be mentally prepared for that.
Maybe that's the reason why statistics have proven and studies have proven that people live happier as common laws. You know, they just have a common law wife or husband, as the case may be. Not married, they're just living together, and they may live for 5 and 10 years because they live a biological bodies come together checklist. And as soon as they get married, and now they got to go through that psychological scenario of we are with each other, we're a bond, which was exactly what was happening before from a physical point of view,
Right.
from a financial point of view,
Right,
from a
right.
social point of view.
Right.
But now, when the
Yes.
mindset is
Yeah.
we are married,
Right.
and that bond comes on, they can't handle it.
Right.
And I have heard of people
Yeah.
who live together,
Yeah.
you know, for 10 and 15 years,
Yeah.
and when they decide to get married, they cannot live together for one year.
Right.
Have you
right.
heard of cases like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, and it's unfortunate. I think it's important to understand the role of a boyfriend or a girlfriend is different than a role of a husband or a wife.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a completely different dynamic. And so mentally, when someone is in a relationship and not having those marital expectations, perhaps it's a completely different dynamic. Now you're married, now the marital expectations are there, which is a lot more. And so perhaps they cannot then function as optimally as they were prior to that.
Wow.
So you have to understand why you want to be married and what the reason is. And is it just, it's not just a relationship, it's a whole lifestyle.
It's a whole lifestyle.
It's a whole lifestyle, and you have to be willing to accept that. You know, it's a lifestyle with someone who's different than yourself.
Yes.
You're not blood related, you're not blood bound to them.
Wow.
And
Different
so-
parents, different people.
parents, different upbringing.
Different geographical settings sometimes.
Absolutely, yes, definitely.
Interesting. So I like that point. You can do a checklist on biological things, on
Right.
financial things, on
Yes.
physical things.
Yes.
But when you get married, this marital relationship
Yeah.
It's a whole different thing.
It's a different thing. It's a different lifestyle altogether.
It's a different commitment.
It's a different commitment, yeah. And a lot of times, at least in the Muslim culture, when the non-marital relationships exist long-term, there's a big guilt component there. You know, that they're going outside of the religious sort of parameters to sustain a relationship. And so sometimes people feel that getting married, they're fulfilling their religious obligation, which is valid, it's legit, but there's more to it than just getting married. The religious obligation, also has to be a spiritual, mental, emotional connection. So they have to be prepared for all of that.
And you have to be prepared.
Yeah, you have
must
to
be ready.
You must be ready.
It must not be for society.
Yeah, exactly. It must not be for society.
It must be for Allah, for
It
God
must,
Almighty,
right,
and for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely a divine concept.
Yes,
marriage.
because a lot of people do it for society, not for the pleasure of God.
Yes.
And not for themselves and their happiness.
Exactly. And unfortunately, that's why marriages break apart so quickly nowadays, because people don't have the patience, the stamina. They don't like it, and then they're out, and then they have an escape plan very quickly. But then the aftermath of that, again, is not good either. You know, people have higher rates then of more depression, anxiety after the fact, because then you have to rebuild yourself all over again after the fact. So you have to take all aspects of this before you even initiate a marriage.
Wow.
So it's our responsibility as community members to educate people about that.
Well, that's why I asked you in the very beginning, as a Muslim doctor, as a woman, a psychiatrist, it's very challenging in this profession.
Yeah.
Well, you know, time is running out on us. We have had a wonderful conversation. A lot of issues came out of this. Women issues, family issues, society and social issues, medical issues, marriage issues.
Yes.
This is fantastic. This is fantastic.
I enjoyed it very much.
I really enjoy talking to you, and I'm sure that our viewers worldwide will benefit a lot. Dr. Sheeba, because there are a lot of women out there and families who need this kind of advice. They need to talk to somebody on this issue. They need to hear about these things so they will know that they're not alone.
Absolutely.
And these issues do exist.
They do, yes.
They are not in their own little world.
Yes.
And you know, officially and professionally, that's why I think that I want to strongly recommend and ask you again that we need to have a more discussion like this, and you need to be talking to more ladies and families on issues of these matters.
Yes.
And maybe as we were talking before we went on to record, maybe you should do a live audience
it would
talk
be my
show
pleasure.
with women especially and families online, live, Facebook, YouTube, Alhikmat TV.
Absolutely.
People can ask questions worldwide. And a lot of these issues, because if you and I alone sit here and so many issues came out, can you imagine if you got 100 women in the audience, how many more very important issues can come out that can benefit the communities and the families and the people around.
It would be my pleasure to help and be here for the community, and I would love to.
It's really a pleasure to have you with us in Alhikmat studio.
Thank you, likewise.
To be on this program, Global Issues, and I
Thank
think
you for having me.
we really touched a global issue. Women issues, family issues, mental issue. Which is a global issue, right?
It is, definitely.
It's a global issue. So we're about to shut the program down now. Not shut you off, because we want you to be more on this program, on these issues. So what would you like to say in a couple of seconds to our audience, being here with us, etc.?
Well, I'm excited to be able to provide more information and knowledge to the community, and I think it's important for everyone to be taking care of your mental hygiene and taking care of yourself, and I look forward to providing more services, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it has been a pleasure talking to Dr. Sheeba Rahman, Muslim medical doctor, psychiatrist. Very interesting conversation, and feel free to, those of you who have missed the conversation, you can check it out back on Alhikmat TV, on YouTube, etc. Google Alhikmat, wherever you can find this conversation again. Pass it on to your friends and family worldwide. Thank you very much for viewing. It has been a pleasure being with you. And always stay tuned to Alhikmat TV online 24/7, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah
We're praying salah, right? Well, you see brothers and brothers fighting for money and property. Sisters, brothers, fathers, children. Look at our Prophet ﷺ. 1400 years ago, he said, I don't fear that you guys will do shirk, assign partners to Allah. But my fear is you will envy your brother and your sister for worldly things. When they have these worldly accomplishments, you will envy it.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to Alhikmat TV for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is the creator of different faces. Allah is the creator. Allah, Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah. All praises are due to Allahu, Allah. All praises are due to Allahu, Allah. Allahu, 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 Allah. Allahu.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you would like to dedicate copies of one of these publications as Sadaqah Jariyah, continuous blessings for your parents or dear ones who have passed away, or fi sabilillah, in the path of Allah, please give us a call so we can place your names on these dedicated publications. You can call us at 954-986-0158, or you can also visit us at www.alhikmat.com.
Allah is the creator of different faces. Allah is the creator of all races. Allahu, 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 Allah.
Wafiq Transport Limited. Contact 715-6463 or 673-0152. Located at 86 Orenfield Road, Karapi, Chima. Services include vacuum, septic services, sock pile, sand gravel, etc., trailers, heavy equipment for sale such as flatbeds, drop decks, container trailers, and lots more.
Ya Nabi, salam alayka, ya Habib.
Bounty Kings, Bounty Castles presents brand new luxury castles for all events. You can contact us at telephone number 749-4342, or you can also email us at bountykings1@gmail.com. A-Class Glamour presents to you wholesaling and retailing of premium lines of cosmetics for all skin types, designer jewelry, and many accessories. Brands include ColourPop, Maybelline, Revlon Professional, Urban Decay, Sephora, and many more. To get a hold of these products, you can call Sadiq Khan at 345-5824 or Amira Khan at 759-6089. You can also visit our Facebook page at A-Class Glamour to follow for newly released lines of products.
सदक़े में आका सारे जहां को दीन मिला बेदीनों ने कलमा पढ़ा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह तेरे सदक़े में आका सारे जहां को दीन मिला बेदीनों ने कलमा पढ़ा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह.
If you'd like to advertise or be a sponsor of this show, please contact Alhikmat office. Telephone number 1954-986-0158 or 1-868-3 325-8276. Or you can email us at alhikmat@alhikmat.com.
Allah